Shalom. I'd like to start out by giving all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ruchak, Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the Great Millstone. Shalom to the elect of Israel. This is the Mayim in Atlanta, and I've been getting to know ChatGPT recently, and I've been having some great conversations with them. And here is one of our latest. This was sparked from what we're seeing happening, first on the news, but just seeing happening within this world with the new cancel culture that is happening right before our eyes, with people getting fired for saying certain things about certain people on the internet, which might not even be that crazy of a take, but people are still getting fired. Jimmy Kimmel is a great example of this. He didn't really say anything too bad, but he's been taken off the airways after 22 seasons for speaking of a certain somebody. But so I was looking at it, you're looking at it, you see that the cancel culture is on the right now, but years ago, just a few years ago, it was coming from the left. And it just goes to show you that these are really just two wings on the same bird. They might call it different things. I think the right's trying to call it something else, but underlying it is cancel culture. And instead of a wokeness that the left was pushing, there's this anti-wokeness, but it's almost the same thing, pushing these false statistics and false facts to go against the wokeness. It's almost a wokeness in itself, that they're so woke that they're past woke, and going back to trying to put things back to how it's supposed to be, or how they think it's supposed to be. And then you can look at how over the last few years the left has been used to drive some kind of extreme behavior, and people are wanting not that extreme of behavior. Basically, the left was used to bring forth the right hand, which the right hand's going to be, or it's looking like it's going to be used to bring forth this new system that we're coming into. And so I was talking to Chat GPT, and I said, tell me about false left-right paradigms and how it relates to political parties within democracy. And Apostle Tahar says that democracy goes into the rule of the demon, in which people are demons. People have demons all over them, which demo goes into people, just like demographics, just the study of people. And crazy goes into rule. So it's the rule of the people, or the rule of the demons. But it says the idea of a false left-right paradigm is the claim that the apparent divide between left-wing and right-wing politics in modern democracies is often exaggerated or even manufactured. Cancel culture on the left and cancel culture on the right seems manufactured to me. It says the core argument is that while citizens are encouraged to see the two sides as radically different, both major political parties or blocs are ultimately controlled by similar elites, institutions, or interests. And that is what it is. The elites of Edom control all this, and they give you the ability to vote so that you can think that you actually have some control, but they're the ones truly in control. Remember, presidents are selected, they're not elected. Since this gives the appearance of choice and debate, while the underlying system remains largely the same. Here's a breakdown of how it works and how it relates to political parties in democracies. Origins of the left-right spectrum. The terms come from the French Revolution in 1789 when radicals sat on the left of the assembly and conservatives on the right. So you see the left and the right all going for France. So says over time, left came to mean progressive, reformist, or egalitarian. Right came to mean conservative, traditionalist, or hierarchical. In democracies, the spectrum has been institutionalized through parties: Democrats versus Republicans in the US, Labor versus conservatives in the UK, and we could go back to its origins, its roots in Rome with the plebeians and the patricians, the plebes and the patricians, which patrician were they're almost grandfathered in. You even hear father within that word patrician, like patriarchal or paterfamilias, that patri there for father. And those were the original families of Rome, with the plebeians being more of the merchants and these different other classes, which they had to basically gain the right to marry patricians, gain the right to be in the Senate, and so on and so forth. But that's where you first start seeing that two-party system, which, Lord willing, we'll get into in the scriptures. It says the false aspect. Shared core interests. Critics argue both left and right parties often serve the same fundamental interest: powerful corporations, banks, military-industrial complex, or global elites. And the global elites control all of these things. They control these powerful corporations. Who do you think's behind BlackRock and the different banks? The military-industrial complex as well. We know that the Israelis are really good within that, but it's the elite of them that are controlling that, which goes into Esau's blessing, the sword. And yeah, the elites, the global elites of Edom, are what's really behind the curtain. And why do you think they go around they use America as its military arm to go around the world, topple governments or destabilize nations, topple governments, and then set up democracy? They bring democracy because it allows people to think that they're in control, but truly the elites of Edom are in control. It's a good way of ruling, but it's also a crooked way of ruling. But it says controlled opposition. Even when parties fight bitterly on social, cultural issues, they often converge on big economic or foreign policy decisions, e.g., wars, central banking, trade deals. The illusion of choice. Citizens are presented with two options, but both are constrained within the same system, meaning democracy channels dissent without allowing real systemic change. And yeah, you just have, like in South Park, they had that one episode, and it's like, who are you going to choose? It's all about voting. Who are you going to choose? And the two options were a shit sandwich and a douchebag. You could choose between both of them. You know, two evils, two things that you don't want to choose, but people get into that mindset of thinking they're choosing the lesser evil when both are really terrible options. Salakia, I am kind of stopped up today, nose-wise, breathing-wise. This is how it plays out in democracies. Polarization as distraction. Parties amplify cultural wedge issues, abortion, guns, immigration, gender, to keep people divided and emotionally invested, while less visible but more impactful policies like finance regulation, surveillance, taxation on the wealthy remain untouched. Swinging pendulum power alternates between left and right parties. And that's what we see. Maybe 8 years on one party and then 4 years on the next, or, back and forth. You rarely see any more than 8 years before it swings to the other side. This is creating the sense of change, but many core policies, foreign alliances, monetary system, defense spending, surveillance state continue regardless of who is in power. Like that MOTB is going to come no matter who is in power. America's going to fall no matter who is in power. Maintaining legitimacy by offering two competing parties, democracies reinforce legitimacy. People feel they have a voice even if real options for transformation are limited. Yeah, people keep doing it because they think they have a choice too, when they have the other option of just not playing. It's hard for them to see that option though. Examples. Number 4, United States. Democrats and Republicans appear deeply divided, yet both have supported foreign wars, Wall Street bailouts, and increasing national debt. And just moving on. UK. Labour and Conservatives alternate in power, but both accepted neoliberal economics after the 1980s. EU. Populist movements often claim that mainstream, center-left, and center-right parties are two wings of the same establishment. And that's what is said often, that this is two wings on the same hateful bird, the left and the right of the same eagle, which Esau's spirit animal is the eagle. He's referred to that, or the eagle is always linked with Edom within the scriptures. Implications. The false paradigm critique suggests that democracy under such a system is less about real choice and more about managing public opinion. Some argue this maintains stability, while others see it as a betrayal of genuine democracy, keeping citizens distracted from surface level differences while power structures remain untouched. And I want to say, Edom is linked with the eagle, but not always. I said always. I want to take away that always. But it says, in short, the false left-right paradigm in democracies means that while political parties appear to be opposites, they often operate within the same boundaries set by elites. The debate is real, but the range of allowed debate is narrow. Yeah, that's what we exist within, a false left-right paradigm. That's what the elites have set up, and this continues in their divide and conquer. It's within the foundations of all of their societies, this false left-right paradigm, and it's divide and conquer from the get-go, and then they divide and conquer within all sorts of other ways, like race and class, color, different every way that they can divide and conquer. But all these things are going to turn on them because there's already too much division for them to control, and this division is just going to increase and increase. But getting into the scripts, Revelation 13 and verse 11, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and this beast is that fourth beast whose deadly wound was healed. And the beast before it was Rome. This is the reiteration of Rome, which you could call the NATO and the EU, with America being that whore that rides the beast. He says, and he had two horns like a lamb. So two wings, two sides, a left and a right. But altogether he spake as a dragon, and he spake as a dragon, showing draconian like rules. It says, by peace he shall destroy many. And also in Isaiah 19 it talks about that cruel Lord being set over them. They use the system, but ultimately they want to push some dragon talk onto everybody. They want to push the MOTB onto people. They want to push this new technocracy, their NWO, onto everybody. These are dragon-like qualities. They want to reduce the population down to 500 million. And they're going to use their system, which has two sides, these two paradigms, the left and the right, to do it. And people are going to agree because it seems so peaceable. At first, it says like a lamb. Lambs are peaceable, but then the dragon will show. Which dragons are never known to be peaceable. One second. Alright, I'm back. Slakia. Got a call. But keep on going. We're gonna go to Daniel 7. Actually, we will stay here at First Maccabees. First Maccabees 8 and 15, it says, Moreover, how they had made for themselves a senate house, wherein 320 men sat in council daily, consulting a way for the people, to the end that they might be well ordered. And this is going into Rome. Jump up to verse 1. It says, Now Judas had heard of the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men. And this is going back to when the Etruscans were there. This is before Esau, Edom got into Rome. But this is how they had their things ordered. And eventually Esau got in there, and he took this system, and he's ran with this system of having senates. And back then, this was the plebes and the patricians, but really back then, it's probably mostly the patricians, because the plebes had to kind of work their way in. But you see this used, the same system used again today with the Democrats and Republicans. But seeing that this system is here, all this also means that we are at the end, because it's through this beast that the end comes. So Daniel 7 and verse 7, After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, Rome, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. This shows you that's a characteristic of Rome. They were able to win so much territory through their iron weaponry, teeth showing power. So it devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. So all these other beasts before it, all these other empires before it took over. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, the beasts going into kingdoms, and it had 10 horns. So it's diverse because normally kingdoms have a king. But this kingdom, this empire, they had a senate. It says, and it had 10 horns. That's going into its vassal states. But as we know, Rome fell. So verse 8, I considered the horns, the vassal states, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. This beast who fell, his deadly wound was healed. So Rome fell, and then NATO and the EU rose up again, with that little horn being America. It says, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. That's going into Spain, into France, and into Britain. That's basically who America was made out of. You got the Spanish claim certain territory, like Florida and around there. The French, the Louisiana Purchase. The French had a large portion, even going up further north, especially in Canada, and you had all these French fur trappers and stuff like that too. And then the Brits, we know, we had that cool war, a cool little revolutionary war with the Brits. And America had war with all of these: French, Spanish-American War, the Revolutionary War, and the French-American War. So those are the 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. Because this is one of the most proud places to ever exist. It says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. And pride goeth before the fall. This is Esau's last time of having any power. before the Lord establishes his kingdom, because all these thrones are being cast down, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. Garment white as snow, pure, just pure innocence, which is why the white man tries to call himself that, but they're red. It says his throne is like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. And this is basically what's going into that, because this fourth beast that we're in is the last beast. It already rose back up again, but it's the last beast, and this is the last time we'll be seeing this false left-right paradigm. But it's cool to see it being used currently with watching how these tools that they have, like cancel culture, watching it be at first on the left hand side and then now seeing it on the right hand side, showing that they're really just all the same. They're both just two cults of personalities, and ultimately the elites are using both sides of them to push their objective. And so, Lord willing, that was edifying. I'd like to give all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakach, Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the great millstone. Shalom to the elect of Israel. Shalom.